Today I'll be talking about the difference in glycemic index, GI, between hot garri, IBA, and cold-soaked garri. The difference in glycemic index, GI, between hot garri, IBA, and cold-soaked garri is mainly due to how heat and processing affect the starch structure in food. Here's a breakdown of why hot garri, IBA, has a higher GI. 1. Starch gelatinization, hot garri, IBA. When you add hot water to garri to make IBA, the starch granules swell and gelatinize. This process breaks down the starch into a form that's easier and faster to digest. The result is a quicker spike in blood glucose, meaning high GI, usually 85–90 plus. 2. Resistant starch formation, cold-soaked garri. When garri is soaked in cold water, it's not cooked again, so the starch remains partially raw or retrograded. Some of the starch stays in a form called resistant starch, which is not easily digested in the small intestine. Acts more like fiber, slowing digestion and blood sugar rise. This leads to a lower GI, closer to 50–60. 3. Fermentation and processing. Soaked garri is sometimes fermented slightly, which reduces the simple sugars and starch. Fermentation also contributes to a slower blood sugar response. Analogy. Think of starch like sugar locked in a safe. Hot water, IBA, equals you melt the safe, sugar is quickly released. Cold soak equals safe stays mostly intact, sugar release is slower. Conclusion? Hot garri, IBA, easy to digest equals high GI, fast sugar spike. Cold soaked garri, harder to digest equals lower GI, gentler sugar response. If you're watching your blood sugar, e.g., for diabetes or weight control, cold-soaked garri is the better choice, or consider alternatives like unripe plantain fufu, millet, or oatmeal swallows, which naturally have a lower glycemic load. Do the right thing and live long. Garri and fermented cassava, loi loi, which is better in terms of blood sugar impact. Garri has a high glycemic index, especially when made hot, while loi loi, fufu, has a moderate to high glycemic index. Garri may or may not be fermented but still has high glycemic index, while loi loi, fufu, is usually fermented. The fermentation reduces the starch sugar content slightly. Blood sugar impact of garri is very fast. Faster spike when hot prepared. The fiber content of garri is moderate to low, while the fiber content of fufu is moderate. Loi loi, fufu, is best as low glycemic index diet, while garri when hot prepared is worse. Summary. Loi loi, fermented cassava swallow, generally has a slightly lower glycemic index than hot prepared garri because loi loi is fermented, which reduces digestible carbohydrates slightly. Loi loi is also less processed. Garri made with hot water, IBA, has a very high glycemic index of 85–90 plus. Cold-soaked garri has a lower glycemic index than hot garri, but still not as good as well-fermented loi loi. Do the right thing and live long. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for more health talk.